So this would be group B's homework. So if you're in group B in the class, this is the homework you will do. I didn't give you a printed note sheet today for this homework assignment. What you're gonna do instead is just basically copy down these examples as we go over them. That's really the best way to do this. And then bring that to class. Keep that in your notes so you have something to look back at. But basically, all we're going to be doing today is reviewing fractions and talking about fractions with sign numbers. So basically fractions with negatives. So we're going to start off with a couple of fractions that just have the positives, and then we'll dive into the negatives. Now, if you're adding or subtracting two fractions, you guys know, and some of you looked into this today, depending on how long it took you to do the quiz, you know the first step is to find a common denominator. Now when I'm doing this, I like to line them up vertically. I think it helps you see it better. It also, since we do multiplication and division horizontally, it sort of differentiates between the two so that you know which one you're doing. So I always write this vertically so that I can see the difference. Now the first step is, like we said, find a common denominator. The smallest thing that 10 and 2 both go into is 10. So I'll write that over here. And then we can never just change the denominator of a fraction without also changing the numerator. So we got to think, all right, what factor, or what did we multiply by 2 to get 10? Well, that would be 5. So we need to do that up top too, and that keeps the fractions equivalent. 1/2 is equal to 5/10. And that's one of the things you investigated today, or you will tomorrow, and you'll see some of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy over my whole number so I don't forget. And then since the denominator didn't change here, I actually can just copy that 9 over. It should stay the same, and I'll copy over the 5. So let's go ahead and add. We have 9/10 plus 5/10. We just add the numerators. We get 14/10. 5 plus 3 is 8. And that fraction can be simplified, and it's also improper. One of the things you're going to learn this year is it's actually sometimes, fairly often, it's all right to leave a fraction improper. You would never want to leave it improper with this 8 here, though. So you'd want to convert this or put the 8 back. So we're going to just go ahead and convert this. You can never leave a fraction unreduced, though. So we would always want to, at the very least, say what goes into 10 and 14. Well, 2 does, so we'll divide by 2. And that would be 7/5. But we'll go ahead, since there's an 8 here, we'll go ahead and convert this and see how many holes are there too. 5 goes into 7 one time. So there's one hole in this fraction, which I'll add to the 8, so that makes 9. And there are 2 left over, 2/5. So 9 2/5. And for most of you should be pretty familiar with this process. If not, let me know. I can break this down a little more with you. But you should be pretty familiar with it. All right, let's go ahead and go to this one. Same first step. We're going to, if you're pretty confident you know what to do here, just skip forward a little bit. If you get to when I switch sheets here, that'll be the negatives. So feel free to do that if you need to. Least common denominator, we'll do this the same way, would be 14. 7 times 2 makes 14, which is 8. 2 times 7 makes 14, which is 7. And then let's copy our whole numbers. Be a 4 and a 1. 8 minus 7, we just, once again, just subtract our numerators, is 1 out of 14. 4 minus 1 is 3. So that would be 3 and 1/14. All right, now to the fun stuff. Let's just dive right into this. I may not do all of these, so I'll probably skip number 2 just to save some time. I'll do the other ones. All right, so what I notice here is I have a negative leading term and then a positive right after. So I know, since they're different, that I need to subtract. And anytime I subtract two fractions, I want to put the largest one, the one with the biggest absolute value, on top. So I'm going to put the 3 1/2 on top, because that's bigger than 2 1/5, because 3 is bigger than 2. All right, and I'm going to subtract. Now, I know my answer, since that 3 1/2 is bigger and it's a negative, I know my answer is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative for my answer so I don't forget to do it. It's just the same thing as whenever you're dealing with integers, only now we're having to do this with fractions. But the rules, they're different, so we subtract, take the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. That rule doesn't change, it's the exact same. So let's find our common denominator just like we did on the last sheet. The smallest thing 5 and 2 both go into is 10. And to get that, we would have to multiply by 5. 5 times 1 is 5, and we'll copy our 3. 5 times 2 makes 10. We'll copy over our 2. And then 5 tenths minus 2 tenths would be 3 tenths. 3 minus 2 is 1, and that is already in simplest form. 1 and 3 tenths. All right, moving on to this one. I noticed that it's addition, first of all, like the last one, but the signs are the same this time. So I'm going to add and keep the sign, just like I did with integers. Since it's negative, I'm going to go ahead and copy a negative so I don't forget to do that. And now I'm just going to add them. Least common denominator of 7 and 5 would be 35. 5 times 7 makes 35. 7 times 1 is 7. Copy over the 2. That's 5. That'd be 10. There's no whole number to copy there. 10 7/35 plus 7/35 would be 17 35. 2 plus nothing would be 2. And then we're done. That's simplest form. All right, let's do one subtraction example. Remember, we don't subtract anymore. Just like with integers, when we see subtraction, from now on, we're going to add the opposite. So I'll change that to addition. The opposite of 2 1/8 is negative 2 1/8. And now we'll do it exactly like we did these up here. We use our addition rules. The signs are different, so we subtract. Yeah, sorry about that, someone need my help. They're different signs, so we subtract. And the number with the biggest absolute value is 2 1/8, so I'll put that on top. And 1/2 underneath it, just like that. And it's always good to go ahead and get our signs so we don't forget. So the biggest absolute value, like we said, is this one, which is negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative. The smallest number that 8 and 2 both go into is 8, so I'll put that here and here. And that didn't change, so I don't change it. This one would be times 4. 4 times 1 is 4. So, all right, so here we have something that we haven't had happen before. We have, you really can't subtract 1 minus 4. A big mistake people make here is they'll just do 4 minus 1. You can't do that either because this 2 is bigger. It has to be on top, so you have to say 1 minus 4, which like I said, you can't do. So you could do this 2 ways. You could just borrow. And if you know how to do that, that's actually the best way to do it, to take 1 from the 2 and add it to the 1/8. For this, and if you want me to show you that later, ask and I will, because it is the best way. But if you haven't gotten that yet, then you're probably not going to get it right now. You're probably going to need me to help you with it. So for now, I'm going to show you another way that's easier to get but harder to do, and that is to make this improper. And most of you know how to do that already. That's the reason it's easier to do. We just multiply and add. And like I said, most of you have a general knowledge of fractions and can do this. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 makes 17 eighths. So we just made the whole fraction improper, is one way to do it. 17 eighths minus 4 eighths would be 13 eighths. And like I said, it's generally all right to leave a fraction improper like that, as long as it's in simplest form, meaning there's no common factors. Negative 13 eighths is an all right answer. Since the problem was in terms of mixed numbers, it may be a good idea to go ahead and convert it. But you actually don't have to. This answer is correct. There's nothing wrong with it. When you get in 8th grade and start dealing with slope and stuff, you'll actually prefer this over this. When we do ratios, you'll prefer this over this. But let's go ahead and convert it just for the practice. We say 8 goes into 13 one time, keep our negative, and you have 5 left over, and your denominator doesn't change. Both of those answers are correct.